going on? How we doing, traders? Welcome. It is. What is today? Wednesday. The day yesterday, or the holiday, threw me off. So yesterday we didn't even do this. I think we can make it. In fact, I'm sure. And if you fall, stand tall and come back for more. Good old words from Tupac. Today's believe it in your heart, speak it into existence, and live out like it's already yours. Let's get to it. Alrighty, hopefully everybody's having a good morning. Let me pop open my little Coke Zero. I'm actually attempting to get rid of these. I'm going to drink them up, and I'm going to be done with them. Today I'm actually going to run over to Sam's Club after trading's done today, and I'm going to pick up some healthier options, and I'm going to start eating better again today. Ever since the keto thing, I kind of fell off track. I wouldn't say completely, but I definitely fell off track a little bit. So we're going to be getting back on track today. Not keto style, but we are going to be watching what we eat, all that good stuff. Get back into the, if it fits your macros for the most part, just kind of watching my calories and whatnot. So the SPY back up today. This thing is crazy. The Fed's injecting money on what seems to be a weekly basis. Looking at the daily of this thing, the V is still there. It's possible. You would normally say that we want it to come straight back up and form a V, but considering what's happening in the world, the fact that we're even where we are is pretty astonishing. So now when Q2 earnings start coming out, is it going to stay like this? I don't know. We'll find out. But as of right now, they're pumping some pretty good money into it, and we're actually at a pretty key level here, right around this 302 area. So is it going to act as resistance as it did over here when we didn't have anything going on, or are we going to punch right through it and go right back to the highs? So we'll see. Going to be using the scanners as always. Thomas, what's up, marketing? What's going on, guys? Hopefully you guys are having a good morning. I am going to be using the scanners as always, and we'll see what happens. Got about 3 minutes here till the bell. Don't really have anything on my watch list. Let's kind of look at the gappers real quick, see if there's anything that I like. MRSN has some pretty crazy gappage going on. Got about 0.5 mil in volume. Fun looking to be fun again today. A little bit lower range. That range on MRSN is pretty big, all the way from 11 up to 16. Pretty big gap. About 48% there. LK, they're actually gapping up. Interesting. They just can't decide whether they want to go bankrupt or not. Yeah, Hertz, I guess they're back to trading here this morning. They announced bankruptcy, and it's crazy. People would, hey, this is what I'm talking about. The SPY's climbing while bigger companies, not just the little guys, are going out of business. So I think trying to put a face out there, and everyone's just hoping that things are going to work out and just go right back to the highs, but we'll see. Kimberly, what's going on, man? Ma'am, now that you kind of outed that. If you guys notice, bottom left of my streaming screen, I went ahead and changed it up a little bit. No more flashing the social media. I kind of realized that I'm not really that worried about that stuff too much. The Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. I'm going to keep the Twitter. Probably going to stop doing the Instagram. But I figured that really was kind of wasted space. That's why I put it there. And so I put the P&L back there. It's for you guys. It's not for me. It's, again, to hopefully get back to the roots of the channel more so than we already are, looking to just help out in any way possible. So if seeing the P&L helps, then so be it. But seeing some things over there flashing social media pages over and over and over and over again, I didn't really see as very useful. So I will always keep up the latest subscriber and latest tipper because you guys are awesome and you deserve that acknowledgement. But yeah, hopefully it's a little small over there, but it'll get the job done. If I'm ever in 2 stocks at once, it should be able to fit both. I tested it out last night, and we'll see how it turns out. Got about 30 seconds here till the bell. Yeah, the scanners, I don't know. maybe it will make a separate thing for that. But the problem with the scanners is I kind of like where they are. It's hard to fit them onto the screen along with the chart and the montage. So there's really no room, just to be completely honest. It's tough to get it onto the screen and make everything else look presentable. Plus, I always tell everybody, if you want to see the scanners, it's really not that expensive. It's only $99.97, I think, a month to get the Elite, which is all you really need to get started. Gives you the plus i3 and the minus i3. It's not that I don't want to. I just feel that a lot of people aren't coming to the channel just to see the scanners. So if I take up most of the real estate on the screen for the scanners, it's not going to benefit everybody as a whole. JWN looking nice here, but we don't have any shares. I could pull up IB if I wanted to, but keep an eye on it. Put it on the bottom screen, see if it wants to run up maybe towards 19. Didn't mean to type that in. Oh, that's what we had up. I was like, huh? Little pricey one here on RL. Also very spready, over $1 spread here. Was seeing if SLCA wanted to run up to 350 there, but it looks like it kind of stalled here. Just don't think I could play the spread. STNE, this looks to be on earnings. I guess they did pretty good in earnings. So I'm going to be careful with that one. It's 10-cent spread on a $7 stock. Always kind of iffy. So nothing right out of the gate for us today. There's a couple that were close to being interested, but didn't quite get there. Morning, Dennis. What did MRSN do? Oh, wow. Brian was happy about that. I can see why. This ESNT is kind of interesting. See if it pops through 37. This thing's... I wonder if this is on earnings. Pretty big gap up there. Thing has a ton of room. I'm gonna leave this one alone for the time being. See if it pops back up if it goes through 37. Wish I could type correctly. Range isn't really here on ETM at all. Is Crocs doing something again today? Fly's trying to fly to the moon here. Trying to halt, actually. What's the, it's a low float, 24. See that spread? These spreads on these stocks are crazy sometimes. When I pulled this up, if we would have had a little bit more of an extension through 10, I probably would have been interested, but it actually couldn't even go through 10.15 just because it was about to halt, or 10.17 I think it was. LK squeezing a little bit. I cannot type this morning. Look at a couple going the other way. That JWN actually almost got up to 19. I'm actually just curious real quick. Yeah, there's plenty of shares on IB. Just being patient here, not seeing anything just yet. Damn burning sensation, man, it just won't go away. Was on FL. Yeah, this one was interesting. I wanted to see if it would go through 30 a little bit more. Looks like it did get a nice little pullback there. It's one of those awkward mornings where nothing really went too far. Everything kind of just piddle-paddled. We didn't really get any like really big extensions right out of the gate. There's HTZ. Back over $1. You go, Hertz. It's crazy. This BNED, some place I've never heard of, has a higher price than Hertz. I mean, granted, their market cap might be much, much different, but it's just crazy to see that Hertz is all the way down there. What you got here, marketing? Nice, I like it. It's a winner. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. BNet is Barnes & Noble? Really? Oink, oink. What's up, pigs? I still have a feeling I know who you are, but I'm not going to make any assumptions. Well, I made the assumption yesterday. JWN got right to 19 and 18.99 to be exact, and now it's pulling back. That's why you saw me pull up the calculator. I was actually looking to see if it would go through 19. I was looking to calculate my share size real quick for IB, because on IB's platform, they don't have the ability to put in. Well, they might actually. I'd have to look, but I don't think they have the ability to do the calculations for the hot buttons. Nope, my assumption was wrong. Fun is always trying to be fun. Look at that pre-market spike. Ton of volume. It's been fading ever since. I'm assuming the SPY probably did as well. Yeah, look at the SPY. Headed back down towards 300. It's probably why everything did what it did. Tried to pop to catch up to the SPY, and then the SPY said, nah, we're going down. So everything's kind of following suit. Yeah, everything's kind of tanking right now. What did Cake do? Oh, Cake did make a little move there. I missed that one. I don't remember pulling that up. I feel like I would have wanted through 23 anyway. I feel like nothing really has been that extended just yet today. Fly actually wasn't too bad, but again, just not that extended through previous resistance. This is kind of a grinder. It is pretty extended, but not my type of play. See if it wants to go crazy through 49 here. There, it's through. See if we get any kind of a push. This is just kind of grinding. There's a little bit of a push. Looking for a candle bigger than all of these candles, right? That's the candle we want. I'm gonna turn this off. I have PAGS up to PAGS. I'm actually much more interested in that. Let's actually switch these charts. DFS, I would really need to see that make a run. PAGS, I'd love to see this get up through 3250. Just because of the pre-market levels here. That's why I would like to see it a little bit more extended. Here we go. Let's see if we can get through 50. Nope, came right back down. Trying again. Here it goes. See if we can get the push through. It's through. Just trying. It's not getting too much of a push here. A little spready here as well. There it goes. Still spread. A pretty big spread here. There we go. All right, we're going to start PAGS here. If we can get back down through 50, we'll look to take our 75%. Put an order out there at 35 for the majority. See if it wants to come down there and hit us. Like I said, I know we're a little bit on the smaller side with the share size, but I'm going to stick it out for the rest of this week just to get comfortable with using everything, the new setup per se. We'll go from there. There we go. We're almost on the bid there. Bit of a spread again here. There we go. We're actually on the bid. There we go. We actually got some fill. That would have been nice if we didn't have it sitting there. But we're going to put our stop at high of day now for the rest, and we'll let it go. So ended up shortchanging ourselves a little bit because of the spread. If we would have kind of let it go, we would have been a little better off there. But we're going to see if we can't ride this one out. We're going to stick to our take profit plan of using the pivots, and we're going to let this thing go. It would have been nice, though, to use the manual button, but it was so spready. I had a feeling we might get a dive through 50 and come right back up, but this thing just pretty much died. So that's why we are keeping 25%, though, see if we can't get it to continue to the downside, maybe give us a little fade for the rest of the day. Yeah, like I said, I always try. It's right now. It's at that previous resistance right here, right? I mean, it was one little tick there, but that's what I was looking at, and I always like to see it extend from there. That's what I look for. So we actually ended up with a pretty good entry there. We ended up at 78. The high was 83, so pretty close to a top tick there for hitting the bid. That's pretty close. Oh, you had an early entry, but look at that ad. That was perfect. Well done. And you had the nice patience to wait down towards 32 for that flush. Well done. Yep, we're going to let this play out. We're going to use the pivots on this one. Not making any more mistakes. Happy to take, it was actually... We had 15 shares, so 10 shares is what, 66%? It wasn't even really 75%. So technically we have a little bit more than we normally would, which will help out if it wants to continue. Very well done, marketing. Yeah, like I actually front ran the previous resistance here. And I mean, technically this isn't necessarily previous resistance. You could really argue that it was actually down here, like right around here, around 3150, which is where it's trying to get down to now. But it did give us a nice extension, and it did seem like it was kind of struggling there at that 32 area. So I really just kind of used that as the previous resistance, and I just kind of front ran it a little bit, especially because of the spread. So I was pretty happy to get out when I did. You can never expect it to flush like this, right? But it did, so I'm pretty happy with it. So now we're going to sit here and play the pivots, and hopefully we can get a nice exit. It hasn't even, so right now our pivot's still high of day, which kind of sucks. Imagine letting this thing go $1.20 back against you and stopping you out because you're playing the pivots, but that's part of the game. If you're going to use the pivots and that's your system, you have to do it. You have to do it every single time because there's going to be times where it goes back up and stops you out, but there's going to be times where this goes down to yesterday's lows. And so you always have to keep that in mind. I'm not sure if PAGS is on earnings though. It does appear that it might be, but we'll see what it does here. We're gonna let the pivots take us out, either make us some more money or kind of keep us where we're at. I'm interested to see what it does here at this 3150 area, which is where it's getting to now. Because now you have a lot of people underwater, right? All these people that were buying into this thinking this was going to continue, they're underwater now. So they have to make a decision. So if it does pop back up to 32 or even through 32, are they going to sit here and try to wait for it to go back to high a day? Or are they going to look to sell at break even or just for a small loss, etc.? And if this keeps dropping, then they're in some real trouble, right? Now they're essentially bag holders if they want to continue to hold. But looking at the hourly chart as well, the next real support level is down here at 29.68. So we'll see what happens. I mean, if you're playing really tight pivots, you could almost argue that it made a pivot here at 32.17. But we're going to try to play the long game here and not let our emotions take over. We would love to see the EMA that everyone trusts so much start to curl back down, try to stay under VWAP. It's right at VWAP at the moment. It's trying to stay above it. So if we could get under that and hold, that'd be the key. It would be pretty hard not to take the full trade if this were to plunge down towards 31. I will say that, but we'll see what we can do letting this work for us, because that would just pretty much be a straight V coming straight back down, kind of like it's trying to do right here. Put a range in. I mean, if it wants to drop straight to 31, I feel like no. Okay, stop. So say I'm already trying to talk myself out of using the pivots. I do think I am going to move it down to this 32.17 area though, even though that was a pretty quick pivot. Some would argue that's not even a pivot, and I would probably agree with them. But it would be pretty hard emotionally to let this thing go all the way back to high a day at this point. No, I'm just going to leave it. Follow the rules. Follow the rules. Thomas, would you new pivot? Yeah. I mean, if you go to the 1 minute, you could argue that it did bounce here and then it came back down and made a new low. And to me, that's what makes a pivot. You get a bounce, you get a high within that bounce, and then you go back and make a new low. To me, that's a pivot, right? But it's a really tight pivot because we're using the 1/2 minute chart. However, if you scroll out onto, say, the 5-minute chart, this thing hasn't made a pivot yet. So when you're using pivots, it's probably best to scroll out. It's going to give you most likely the better idea. And that's what I'm trying to do. It's tough, though, especially because it's holding this 50 area. It hasn't went through 50 yet. If it were to go through 50, I'd feel a little bit more confident. But I got a feeling that we might get a little bit of a squeeze here to the upside just because it was holding 50. And if it gets to 32, it might pop through 32. But I'm just trying to play the chart. And technically, if you were to ask me, if I wasn't in this trade and somebody pulled PAGS up, said pull PAGS up and show me where your pivot is, like off of the highs, I would say that there is no pivot yet. The high would still be your pivot. So I really have to keep stepping outside the box a little bit to realize that I'm letting my emotions get to me some of the time. So I need to not let that happen, because that would be a really tight pivot. Now, you could play tight pivots. If you're going to play tight pivots and you're always playing tight pivots, that's different. But if you're looking to play the long game and you're looking for these all-day faders, you can't play those tight pivots because they're going to come up and probably get stopped out as it's making what would normally look like sloppy seconds. I mean, my trades are based off the 2-minute chart, but I'm saying once you're in the remaining shares, I would start to look at the 5-minute chart, looking for a pivot there. That's what I was trying to say. PAGS sitting at midline on the Bollinger Bands. Well, good. Hopefully it goes down to the lower ones. If we can break 50, we're going to get a pretty good dump. And to me, this would be a pivot. Even though it kind of just consolidated and went sideways, to me, this technically tried to bounce and make a move back towards the upside over a period of time, and then it went lower. So to me, that would be a pivot down here at 31.73. Yeah, 73. But it's having trouble breaking through 50. And what is the golden rule? Trade on the 2-minute and base pivot off the 5-minute? Yeah, well, no, there is no golden rule yet. See, that's my problem, is I don't really have that set up yet. I mean, I have the idea of what I want to do, which is basically the 2-minute, because it's a lot easier on your emotions to be able to constantly move your pivots down. But if you're looking for that 25% of your position to work for you the rest of the day, it's really hard to keep those tight pivots. You're going to want to maybe scale out and look for the bigger scale. I really want to see this break through 50. There it goes. Now we might get a nice little drop. Or it could just be the market makers looking to eat up some liquidity. There might have been a bunch of stop losses sitting there. But it's looking pretty good. So I'm going to see what it does here. And I am going to move it down to this 32 area. If it lets me. Come on. It's like not letting me. There we go. Did it replace it? It says it replaced it, but oh, there it goes. Okay. And there's the flush I was talking about. I figured we'd get a flush down towards 31 if we could get through that 31.50 area. You got a lot of people that were holding bags in here. A lot of people that were in down here that are saying, crap, this thing isn't going back up. Now I'm going to take my small profits or break even. And that's what you get. That's how you get these big sell-offs. The only problem is it's a pretty big sell-off with not a lot of volume. So that's the one iffy part about this. If we can get a breakthrough 31 here, I might just take it because that's a pretty big move to the downside. But if it wants to bounce and kind of consolidate here, we'll let it go. And that's just a pure feel, and it wouldn't be necessarily following the rules. But that's a pretty big move to the downside. It'd be pretty hard not to take it. When you get a pretty big move and it's most likely going to bounce back up, it's going to take a long time for it to come back down to that area again. We see that all the time. But it is bouncing a little bit here, so we'll let it work. That was such a big move, though. I am going to move it down to where I said this pivot was. So 31.73. So we'll put it right here at 31.74 if we can get it there. 76 looks to be where it wants. Nope, 70. I don't want it at 70. We'll put it at 76. And again, like I said, what did it get down to there? 31.03. We were thinking about putting that order out at like 31.10 earlier. Don't know if we would have got filled. I didn't see if the ask got down there with it. I think it did, but we'll let it work. And that's the beauty of pivots, guys. Before we were down here, we were looking at giving 1.5 points back. Now we're looking at giving about 70 cents back. Granted, it is smaller shares, but if this decides to keep fading the rest of the day, that's the beauty of the pivots. You're going to make more and more. Whereas in before, you would have been out, say, up here at 32. Like yesterday, do you remember? I took my first take profit, and then I took the other one right behind it. And I ended up watching, I think it was ARNC, just fade the rest of the day. Or CROX, it was one of the two. There's the pop through 31. I would say 30.50 is a pretty good spot here. Do 30, 60, we'll do 66. I would do 60, 69. No, not going to do any of those. Stop it, Tim. Stop it. We're dedicated. I keep trying to talk myself out of doing my take profit plan, right? Stop it. And that's the issue right now, is I'm dealing with something new. It's new to me. It's tough because I have to work through this because it's something completely new. I'm so used to doing one thing that it keeps trying to override what I know I actually want to do. So as long as I can keep talking through this, I'll be all right. Share size is determined by account size. People need to look past that and look at the method. Just add a couple zeros behind your size. Well, Alex, there's nothing else going on right now, so Thomas, accept the risk. Yep, I am. I'm going to pivot out of this thing. I have to keep talking to myself. SPY is apparently dumping again, or let me see. Oh wow, that thing's down under 300 again. Ouchie. Could be part of what's helping us here. Who knows? Yeah, Alex, sure, there is always another trade, but there's not always another setup that you should be trading. I am not going to overtrade just for the sake of trading. I'm always going to be looking for my setup, and the scanners are pretty quiet right now, so I have nothing else to look at. Quiet in your room, where are the kids? The wife took the youngest for a walk. They'll probably be back fairly soon, and the oldest is over my dad's playing with his cousins. My dad had my stepsister's kids over last night, so he went over there this morning to play with them. Thomas, you couldn't be any more correct. You are your worst enemy. So true. By focusing so much on one stock, you'll miss other stuff. I'm not missing anything, Alex. I have the scanners. RL did come up, and I pulled it up on my second chart. I just pulled it up again, and I would not take that trade. I do not play double tops, so. But yeah, I mean, again, technically, just showing you guys, if you're playing really tight pivots, technically this bounce right here up to 31.36, and then it goes back down and makes new lows, that could technically be a pivot, right? It's all in how you want to look at your pivots. How long do you want to let this thing fade? Is the stock acting the way you want it to? Does it seem like it could be an all-day fader? Those are the things you have to start asking yourself to, see how tight you want to keep your pivots. Like if this thing drops down real quick, makes a pivot, goes lower, but it feels like it still wants to go higher, then you probably want to use a tighter pivot. But if it's doing this and it's kind of consolidated here and then went lower, it didn't even really give you a bounce, the odds are you might be in an all-day fader. You don't know. Obviously, nobody actually knows. Shin, this is something I am learning on the fly, so don't think I'm anything special. This is something that I've always had an issue with, was patience, and pivots are my way of trying to learn patience, trying to learn that these can actually work in my favor. You're never going to be able to time it perfect. That's why you use technical levels, and it sucks to know that this thing could come all the way back up to 31.76 and stop us out when it went all the way down to 30.72, right? We'd be giving back a whole point. But now we have a lot of the moving averages and stuff like that and working in our favor, right? We have the 8 here on the 2-minute. We have the VWAP. Everything's under where our pivot is. So if our pivot wants to get touched, that probably means that this thing wants to continue to the upside. So we wouldn't be interested in the trade anymore anyways. Look at FL. Yep, that one's fading down pretty nicely too. Yeah, Alex, I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just letting you know how I'm doing things. That's all. I'm paying attention to the scanners. Trust me. I have the second chart, and every time you hear me type, that's usually me putting in another ticker, like MRSN right now. I was looking at that, but that's not even, it's coming up to high of day, but it's not something we have shares on, and it's also something that we aren't interested in just yet. So unless something else pops up that we're interested in, we're just going to let it go. So like right here, this is our first real pivot that I would be interested in since the last pivot, right? We're getting an actual bounce here. And then we're going to probably get some kind of consolidation if it wants to go lower, or it could keep going higher. And then if it does come down and make a new low, that would be our new pivot. So in reality, we don't want this to go too high because that would be where our new pivot is, right? We always want it to be as low as possible. This consolidation period here was almost perfect, right? That's what you want in a perfect world. So if this were to pop back up all the way here to VWAP and then come back down and make a new low, technically our pivot's only moving down like 20 cents. So the lower the bounce, the better, obviously. But, it is what it is. If you're playing the pivots, you play the pivots. Excuse me. The only thing I wish I could have done a little bit better, I guess, was be a little bit more patient on that first cover, but I'm not going to be upset with it. Like I said, I'm always going to look to take that 75%, especially on a single entry like that, because we never know, especially based off of the chart. This thing was kind of gapping up. So if it was on earnings or something like that, the odds are you might get a bounce and go right back towards high of day. So I'm never going to be mad with that first take profit. It's this remaining shares that I'm really looking to work on. So hopefully we can come down and make a new low, get back down under 31. That would look really good. and then we can move our pivot all the way down here to 31.30. That would be pretty good considering our entry was at 32.78. So we'd be guaranteeing ourselves $1.50 on the remaining shares here. And if you guys watched yesterday, I think it was like almost 12 o'clock. And technically, I would have still been in that trade on, I want to say it was CROX. I could just check real quick, but it was either CROX or ARNC. It was one of those two. Volume really dying down here, getting pretty slow. Always a little frustrating when that happens, right? You just want that instant gratification. Not instant, but you want it to keep working in your favor. You don't want to be sitting here all day. But again, that's the beauty of the pivots. You can just set it and kind of forget it. If you need to get up, you can get up, right? You got your stop in. Remember when I was thinking about putting a range order in and using like 31.50, I think? Look at how much we may have lost, right? Technically, we could have made more if we would have used it. I think we were going to use like 66 or something like that. If we can get back down through 31, it might be a good sign that we could get back down towards the lows. We're starting to come back down here. Just need to get back through 31 first. If it does get through 31.30 here, that could look like we're bouncing. So that's not what we want the chart to look like, right? We want it to appear bearish, so everyone looking at the stock does not have any interest in buying. Speaking of the wife and the kiddo. Yeah, Thomas, I think it's one of those things where the profit per hour, it is one of those things that I've thought about. It's like, do you really want to sit here all day and just kind of let it go? And to be completely honest, now that they're home, I kind of want to just take it if it breaks this area. Where was this? We're actually already through it. They're at 30. Just because it's making a higher low here. I guess we could just put it right above VWAP. We'll still use the pivot because the VWAP is pretty much right there anyway. It says it's at 57. So technically our stop's in like the perfect place right now. What? Did he? I mean, he didn't say. Yeah.
Like 5 o'clock.
Yeah, true. And to was it Alex? Yeah, to Alex's argument too. When you're playing pivots like this, it would actually benefit you if you were finding other trades, if there were other trades to be had, because then you wouldn't be paying so close attention to this. You would just set the pivot and forget about it, which is what you should do anyway. But since I'm live streaming and have no other plays at the moment, there's nothing else to talk about. So that's why we're so focused on it. I love that he does that and Braden never did. I said I love that he does that and Braden never did. Ugh. Kim, sorry to hear that. Let me pull FLY up here. I see it going off on the scanner. It's not my type of play. FLY is interesting. Not a lot of volume, just got a volume spike there. Here we go back down towards 31 on PAGS. See that push to get through. If we can get through 31, I do think we'll get right back down towards the lows. And that would bring our pivot down here to 31.30, 31.32. That's the cool thing about pivots too. I mean, if at any given time you do have something that you have to do, you're just basically trailing this anyway. You can always just jump out, right? It's not going to be the end of the world. Here we go, back down to 31. Let's see if we can bust through. Actually had 31 on the bid there. Not quite. I do think, just for time issues, I am going to move it down here. It struggled like 4 separate times here to get through 31.30. So I am going to use this as a pivot, even though we didn't come down and make a new low. Just for time and just for, like Thomas was saying, just that hourly effect. But hopefully we can still bust through 31 here and move down. I think I've been patient enough to earn that if it wants to stop us out here and then continue for whatever reason, I'll be okay with it. Technically, I just broke the rules, technically, but I'm not going to be mad about it, and I am still going to put it in the journal that I broke the rules. But it feels like this is a pretty key area at this point, so if it does want to break through that area, we'll go ahead and just take the stop. You're right, I could watch it on my phone, but I'm gonna try to, when I close down. I don't like the idea of having to watch something all day. But again, all I did now is I went from a wider pivot to now I'm just tightening it up. That's all. I mean, technically, this isn't a pivot. Technically, I could have said it was over here when it tested it. So, in a way, I'm not really breaking the rules 100%. It's more like 99.9%. And if it does come back down to the lows, I would have moved it down here anyway. But the fact that I moved it down there before it did make it to the lows, that's the issue. Add the no loitering rule. Plus, this is just being super slow. But if I am going to play pivots, a lot of these ones that you do get into that could be all-day faders, they do end up being this slow. So I would have to get used to it. Nice, Thomas. Basically top tick that thing. KSS. I don't even remember seeing KSS. Looks like a nice one. Looks like one I would have been interested in. Did I pull this one up and say I wanted towards 22? But I don't think I would have. That's a pretty good extension. I must have just missed that one. That was earlier too. Yeah, I see it. I must have just missed that one. Oops, gave you the wrong emoji there. Yeah, see, now it's trying to use 31 as support. It did try to get through. We'll see what it does here. It's still at 31. It's trying to get back down through. 31 obviously acting as a pretty key level here. Actually going to close out IB here real quick. Doesn't look like I'll be using them today. So just FYI, on the 66% that we took up here, we realized 430. Right now, overall, we're sitting at 1325, 1330. So we've made 2 times the amount. 4, 8. Actually, yeah, 2 times the amount that we made off of that first cover just with these leftovers. If we were to exit the position right now. That's the whole point of this, right? If you get an all-day fader with just 25% of your original share size, it can literally basically be a whole nother trade. So always keep that in mind. That's why we're doing this. It does look like we finally are through 31. See if we can actually stay through. The key level now is 3072. 30. What was the low here? 33. All right, we're gonna put in a range order here. Basically front running the current low of day, which is at 30.33. So we're gonna look to just get down there towards 50. We're actually gonna front run 50. I'm gonna put it a little bit above that. So that way, if we get that dump through low of day, hopefully we can get our fill right there before the $0.50, and we'll be very happy with the trade. Excuse me. But we're still risking that previous pivot here. That has not changed. I didn't play with the buttons completely on IB just yet, but you definitely are not going to be able to have the same hot buttons as DOS. DOS has language that IB does not have within their trader workstation. So I think IB is pretty limited to basically just making buttons for like buy a certain amount of shares. Like I really think they're fairly limited. I'm going to look into it a little bit more, but when I changed over to the price or amount divided by price, it really wasn't that big of a deal. So I didn't really worry about it, at least not at this current moment. But it would be nice to see if I can make like the stop at high of day, stop at break even type buttons, but I don't think you can. Might have to end up putting all those in manually. I am going to go out on a limb and say that this is the longest I've held a winning trade. I don't think I've ever sat here. It's crazy how much more anxious I am sitting here watching a trade that I know is a winner, more so than still fighting a losing trade. It's kind of crazy. See you, Kim. Hopefully, how did fly turn out? Did that drop back down for you? It did. Hopefully that ended up okay for you. Have a good rest of the day. Cool thing about IB is that you can Python your own interface and your own hot buttons, whatever you want, etc. Interesting. Good to know, Constantine. I don't plan on needing to do that because I plan on using DOS with IB eventually. I just am not at the point where I can afford that. So I'm just using their basically free platform at the moment. No, Kim, it didn't. I'm sorry to hear that. That is an interesting looking chart. It's like kind of a M looking pattern at this point. So just to give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about with the 5-minute too. Now that we've had some time for this to do its thing, look at this. The first real pivot on the 5-minute was this 3130 area, right? So technically the first pivot from the highs was this 3130 area. So hopefully that'll kind of make it look much better. So when you're at, like I said, on the 1 minute, you could argue that this was a pivot. You could argue that this was a clear pivot. You could argue that this was a pivot here at 3136. Comes back down, comes back up, sits here, and then you could argue that this was still a pivot. But if you were using this as a tight pivot at 3136, it didn't get there. But a lot of times, you know, this could kind of poke through for a split second and then come down when you're using those tight pivots. But then you go to the 2 minute, everything looks a lot different, right? If you're really using tight pivots, you could have said that this was a pivot at the top of this candle. This was definitely a pivot here. And then you could say that this is a pivot, which you're starting to see what the 5 minute looks like, where you could almost say, if you're being tight with the 5 minute, you could say the top of this candle was a pivot, and then you have a clear pivot right here, right? You finally get that bounce with some green candles, and then you come back down, making a new low. That's a pretty clear pivot. We technically never made a new low, but you can see what I'm talking about, how that is a defined pivot. DOS for CMEG is $1.25, $125. For IB, I want to say it's around the same. I don't know exactly, but it's something like that. But considering I'm under PDT because I'm only using a smaller account, it would be pretty pointless for me to pay for DOS when I'm only taking a trade over there every once in a while. The whole point of opening up the IB account was if I get a nice trade or a nice setup like PAGS here, and I don't have shares available on CMEG, to be able to jump over to IB and take the trade over there. That's the whole point of having that set up. The ISW chat is just so much fun. Once things start slowing down, it just becomes fun to talk in there. Here we go, headed back down towards the lows. All we want is that break of this candle here, this 72, and then we're looking for that snap down towards 50 to bring us down towards the lows of the day. and we'll be happy with that trade. Even though this could fade the rest of the day, we'll be happy with it. Like I said, the first real area of support that I see on the hourly is, we'd have to scroll back out. I mean, I could just pull this over, but it kind of looks bad. But it's over here. As you can see, that's what I was going off of, was that candle right there. That's where I get that 29.68 from. I think it's just hanging around this $31 area. About 1-to-1 risk here on the remaining shares at current price. It appears weak, so I'm favoring us getting our take profit. But then again, nobody actually knows what this is going to do. It is hanging around 31 here. It doesn't seem to want to drop down towards the lows again. It is finding some support here. See ya, Alex. Appreciate you stopping by, man. See you tomorrow morning if you stop by. I'll be here. No, Thomas, I'm probably just going to use the rest of this week. Honestly. I know I'm a little bit lower. That's the reason I chose this price, is because I knew it wasn't too low, but I knew it wasn't too high either, because I did a couple of sample sizes in my head. What the heck? My lines are going crazy. So like I went to like a $5 stock and did the math, and then I went to a $50 stock, did the math, just, for the sake of doing the math. And I was like, okay, this isn't too many shares. It's not too high, because as you can see here I got in at 32, it's basically $33, and it was 15 shares. So I knew that it wasn't going to be a lot, but at the same time, we know that these things can move 2 points at a time. So 15 shares on 2 points with no ads is $30. So it can add up pretty quickly if you get the ad and then another ad in there. So it's not like it wasn't super small share size, but at the same time, it wasn't too big either. So it was more of me finding an area where I would be comfortable, just making sure everything worked out. So hopefully, probably beginning on Monday, we'll start upping it. And the cool part about this is I could just up it by $100 to start. So I could go from 500 to 600, and then 600 to 700, 700 to 800. You could just do it that way. If you really want to get edgy, you can go from 500 to 1,000. You could double it, 1,000 to 1,500. It's really personal preference. What you feel comfortable risking per trade, all that good stuff. So to me, as you can tell, I'm still working out the bugs, and I'm only using 500. So I think it's just more because I'm anxious to try to make it work and see if it does work. That's what's keeping me anxious. So I think once I get comfortable with it, I was hoping for some more trades today besides just one, to really kind of hone in the mistakes that we made yesterday. I mean, we went 3 for 3 yesterday, but we also didn't follow our rules on any of them. So today we're at least following our rules for the most part. And it feels better. And I have to get it through my head that you're going to have pivots, and it's going to be a point and a half away, and you're going to get stopped out sometimes. It's just part of it. And I have to keep reminding myself that that's the system. If you're going to follow the system, you have to follow the system every single time. So it does look like we're coming down towards the lows here, which is, well, not the lows, but the low of this move. 78 is the number we got to break. We're at 81 on the bid. If we can get that break through 78, I think we might get that 50 test, and that's all we're looking for here to finish this trade off. What did we get to on this candle? Looks about the same. Yeah, 82. So we need that push through 80. That's kind of what's hanging us up here. Not quite. Right back up into the 90s. It's been using 31 too, quite a bit here. 3104, 3102. 3104. I'm gonna move this down just to try to get us out of this trade. 3105. We'll go right above that 3104 area. So obviously using a really tight pivot, a pivot within a pivot. So we obviously aren't following the rules here, but I'm looking to just get out of this trade. So now we're risking very little to make much more at this point. We're not going to let it just go all the way back up there against us. So if it wants to pop through 31, we can just be happy with the trade and be done with it. Because it is struggling to get back down there towards the lows. And essentially this is forming a higher low as well. So it could be looking to try to make a move back up. And I've seen moves like this and they end up going high of day later in the day, right? It just could be the imbalances of the morning that made the stock make a move like this. And then throughout the rest of the day, the imbalance starts to shift on something that's a little bit lower volume. And you could come back later in the day and this thing could be up at 34. So you never know what a stock's going to do. You can only put your money in when you think you have the best edge and the probabilities that it's going to do what you want it to do. What a slow mover. Oh, man. Oh, I can't wait for this pain to go away. It's so annoying. This thing is just floating and consolidating in this area. What is this IMMP doing? Just going high of day here on a pretty big move. It's a $1.36 stock though. Kind of at a double top. There we go. Finally getting to move down here on PAGS. 78. We got through 80 there. See if we can get that move down towards 50. See if we can get that dump. Got through 80, but came right back up through. It's trying. Been shopping for parts for my son's first gaming rig streaming build, and the prices are nuts right now. Well, yeah, because everything's sold out. Because nobody else has anything better to do. So between building computers, just being on the computer, a lot of the peripherals have been sold out most recently. Like I ended up getting this keyboard. I really wanted the Logitech G915 or 13, 15. Yeah, 915. It was sold out everywhere. They had the clicky version in some places, but I didn't want the clicky version. I would unless they send it with divorce papers, I don't think I could get the clicky version of any keyboard. I did that once, and it lasted, I think, less than a week. It's up in the attic now. Here we go. 73. We're breaking down here. See if we can just get that move down towards 50. Right back up to 80. Not asking for too much. We're not even asking for the lows. We're not even asking for the 50 break. We just want it to test 50. If it gets back up into the 90s, I do fear that we are going to get stopped out. I will say that. Just from seeing stocks do this over and over again. If it can't budge through, if the sellers can't really step in and force this down, if it does get back into the 90s close to 31, we most likely are going to get this pop through 31. It's just the probabilities of seeing this over and over again. That would be what I would think are the odds. So we got the 72. What did we get down to there? 75, 73. So we almost got down. We basically double bottomed here. Just trying to use it as support. We're looking forward to bust through there to get down towards that 50 test. Try it one more time here, 75. If we get down into the 60s, I definitely think we're going to get our fill because we're going to bust through. There's probably a bunch of stop losses sitting here. That's probably why it keeps testing it, right? You're looking for those supply zones. So hopefully we get a nice little pop to the downside to test 50 if we can get through. Trying again. Market maker is hunting. He's hunting. He's got those orders in his sight. He's like, I'm right there. Look at all these orders sitting right under 72. Spy's dumping again. Wow. The spy. Oh, I was like, when my chart took a second to load there, it looked like it halted. I was like, holy crap, it might as well have. That thing is all the way down there. Uh-oh, back into the 90s. That's not good. Like I said, if we get back into the 90s, it's not going to be good. You're going to get a lot of people probably covering here. There we go. Pretty much right up to 31. If we test 31, we're most likely going to pop through. There it is. Coming up to 31 here. Had a feeling that little squeeze was going to happen if we couldn't break through the lows. Just something you see happen all the time, right? It's just how it works. So why didn't you sell at the lows, Tim? Well, because I was looking for the bigger move. We were still only risking that little bit right here above 31 to try to get down there towards 55. So we did bust through 31 there. Didn't quite get up to us. It got up to 02, I think. 015. Came right back down. A little bit of a fake out before trying the 50 test. Maybe. And that's why I use the pivots, right? We were right above that pivot. There's some pretty big resistance sitting there, obviously at 3104 area. It didn't actually even get up to 3104. But that's why you use the pivots, right? There we go, right back down towards the 70s. I had a feeling we might get stopped there just on that little pop through 31, but we didn't. So we're still in this thing. Back down to 76. All we got to do is get through 72, and I got a feeling we're in the clear. Nope, right back into the 80s. This thing is just toying with us. We've given it such a short range in comparison to the move it's already made, and we just can't get it to make a move one way or the other. It's just consolidating in this little area. Been sitting here for what, like the last 20, 25 minutes in this range. Back down to 76 here, 75. Just need to get through 72. There it is, 71 on the bid. There we go, we're coming back down. If we can get down in the 60s, we're going to get a nice little push down here. Yep, right back up into the 80s. It is trying. SPY's kind of dumping too. Could be helping as well. I don't know if PAGS really kind of follows it, but looking at the hourly, it does look to try to follow it a little bit. Come on, let's get that 50 test. That's all we want. Here we go, back down towards 70. There we go, into the 60s there. Come on, let's give us a little push here. Here we go. 69. See if we can get the push down towards 50. 67. Come on. I do have my finger on the button just in case it does get down to 55 and we're close enough and it's not giving us the fill. But it does not seem to want to press down there. I'm going to give this one more attempt. Does not want it. All right, if we get back down in the 70s, we're just going to take it. Because it does seem to be finding support here. So if we do get back into the 70s, we're going to just go ahead and take it. Actually, let's just try to move this up to 71. Now we'll give it an even tighter range. But yeah, you could tell this was probably going to happen. It was just finding too much support there. It tried to break through the lows and it didn't. So it found that liquidity that might have been there. But if we can break back down, it's trying to hold this as support. Just like it was doing up here using certain resistance areas, even here at 3104. So if it wants to come back down and give us this fill, actually that was a pretty big move. Let's move this back down. Give it one more attempt here. Might shortchange ourselves by 2 cents here because I got it at 57, not 55. Coming down, there we go. Not going to be mad about 2 cents. There we go, we're on the bid. All right, we're going to take it there. So we ended up getting 60. Not going to be, it was kind of sitting there. I don't want this to jump back up like it looks like it's about to. Going to be pretty happy with that trade, guys. Pretty happy. And as you can see there, it goes back up into the 70s. So look at that crazy patience. if it does want to come down and test 50 and even go through, so be it. I'm going to be pretty happy with that. I am going to come back to this later though and see what happens with the pivots, but that was a long enough trade. So I'll be quite happy with the outcome. So thank you, David. It does look like a pretty good chart. Not gonna lie. Probably one of the best patient trades I've had ever. I'm gonna just say that it is. Got the nice cover there, and we were super patient with that 25%. We're finally starting to click. Something's clicking, and it's feeling pretty good. So gonna move on. That's all I got for you today, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You know I always appreciate that support. If you do have any questions or comments, feel free to hit me up in the Discord or leave it down below when this thing processes or when I put my video out later. And I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Peace.